Good morning, Writing the Land community. I wanted to just touch base briefly and just connect, but also say how amazing it is to be a part of this community, to read and bear witness and participate in what you're writing, and not only what you're writing, but the images you're sharing, the experiences you're sharing. I just think I love this class. So mostly I wanted to touch base on that. There were a few other things. So it's Thursday morning. There are a few other things I want to touch base on, and I also wanted to kind of talk about the clustering that I mentioned in our first video. But I had made a reference in the posting day before yesterday about Madeleine L'Engle's Circle of Quiet it's the first in the Crossword journals. So I just wanted to share that with you. This book, she's the one who wrote about, and you can see, I mean, it's so well read and loved, and but she's the one, and this is nonfiction, who wrote about I put my family first and I put my writing first. Clunk. And so I read this at kind of the perfect time in my life and have gone back and read it every year and frequently throughout the years since. So I wanted to make sure and share this with you. I never read Madeleine L'Engle. She wrote, A Swiftly Tilting Planet. Maybe I was the only junior high student who never read that, but I never did, and I went back and read it after reading about the writing process that she writes about in her nonfiction, in her journals, basically. So I wanted to make sure Madeleine L'Engle's A Circle of Quiet and give this to you. And then I also wanted to touch base, just because it flashed. Remember, so we saw Isabel Allende, Daughter of Fortune. And I loved how she writes about, she said, I never would have dared call myself a writer. And I know so many of us feel that way. And when I heard her say that, it really impacted me, profoundly, because if she didn't dare, then perhaps, and she went ahead and wrote anyways, then perhaps I might. So I've seen her speak a number of times. When I was, I was just first writing. I'm trying to think, when was 6 months? Screaming, because she screamed for the first 4 years of her life. So if Wynn was 6 months, Luke was 2, and Wyatt was 3, which I wrote. That's when I started writing. Such an ideal time to start a writing career. But anyways, I went and I heard Isabel Allende speak, and I wrote an essay about that experience, and I'm sure it was a very heartfelt, extremely poorly written essay. I would imagine it was filled with adverbs, filled with gerunds, the ing, but it was also, it was absolutely filled with heart and authenticity about what it meant to me to hear her speak. And so I sent her, I sent that off to be published, and I sent a copy to her with a thank you for all that she had meant to me in my life and for hearing her speak. And in return, I received a handmade card, and I also received, now this is absolutely a reflection on her. This has nothing to do with me because she has no idea who I am. But this is a reflection of a writer creating community, and a writer, creating a community with readers. So in return, I received a handmade note telling me how much this essay had meant to her, and she also made me a garnet necklace and a matching pair of garnet earrings. I can still kind of hardly believe it. So here's the earrings. Here's this gorgeous pendant. I don't even, to me, this is this was to this random person she had never heard about from the thousands of letters that I know she must receive. And what a reflection of her spirit. What an incredible reflection of her spirit. And so I just wanted to share that because I flashed on it. She touched this necklace. Isabel Allende touched this necklace. But is that not incredible? And as I think about creating a creative community, creating an authentic community of souls, this so This is such a life lesson for me in generosity, in giving, in connecting. Anyways, I just wanted to share that with you. The other thing that I really wanted to touch base on, a number of you have read from Amy Irvine's Trespass. And so I just wanted to read, to tie in the clustering and to read the first, the first paragraph in this book because it's so gorgeous. Ruin. My home is a red desert that trembles with spirits and bones. There are 2 reasons I came here: my father's death and the lion man who prowled my dreams. Perhaps it was coincidence, but a man, half wild, ravenous beyond words, slid from the dream world into the mud of the waking one the same year my father left this world for another. Ghosts, paw prints. I've tried to stay put. The lion man is Herb. His name, his grandfather's. It doesn't quite suit him, but then nothing about the civilized world does. Even my mother, who prefers all things tame, cannot accept it. Instead, she calls him Red for his long copper curls, for the heart pulsing on his sleeve. His eyes are a piercing topaz. And he purrs of dimensions other than this one. Says he sees and hears things differently, and that's why he makes up his own rules. Me? I am at a loss for words. After contending daily with the lion man's incorrigible ways, I still don't know what to call him. If Herb is red, then my father was blue, perpetually immersed in water and nostalgia to the point of inertia. He passed the days hunting, mostly in cattails on the edge of the Great Salt Lake, just outside Salt Lake City. There he sat motionless, as if he could halt time. It was his attempt to deny the seductive sirens of civility, their incessant beckonings to behave, to belong. He acted as if all that mattered was the water and the sound of wings flapping overhead. He was a good shot. But he lost his fluidity. The lake swelled, then retreated. Constrained by convention, dulled by bourbon, his primal reflexes failed. When the banks of soft marsh imploded beneath his feet, he simply could not respond. Finally, on the first night of the new millennium, as the rest of the world toasted a new era, my father put a bullet through his own heart. Trespass, Amy Irvine. So clustering, so the piece clustering, and if you haven't read it yet, it's okay. I'm just going to kind of, when I read that piece by Gabrielle Rico, it transformed my writing, because in school we are taught to write linearly, the perpetual 5-paragraph essay, which has a purpose, I understand. But in general, my experience as learning to write was extremely linear. You have to do the outline, which I couldn't do if my life depended on it. And that whole, like, you sit down and you start writing, you start typing, what it's actually going to look like. And what Gabrielle Rico's clustering, which is highly intuitive, highly circular, highly free, and highly wild, made all the difference in the world. Thank goodness. I don't know how I stumbled upon that book, but I stumbled upon that book fairly early in my writing, and thank goodness I did, because I don't know what would have happened, because writing linearly, writing by format, writing by outline, to me is a very incredibly dull, lifeless way to write. So I know those of us who teach English classes, we do both those things. But so what I'm going to encourage you to do is just, first go ahead and read that chapter, and then choose the word that the chapter recommends is the word turn. And the first time I did this exercise, I did do it with the word turn. I'm going to invite you to listen to whatever word beckons you. Maybe it will be ruin, maybe it will be, whatever it is, but trust your intuition. What I've learned is so much about writing is listening. It's not me forcing creation on the page. It's listening to what's out there. And so you're going to write that word in the middle of the page. I'm going to use the word ruin from Amy Irvine just because we have it. and just write it and put it in a circle in the middle of the page. And from there, whatever intuitively, instinctually comes to your mind when you think of that word, write it down. And so it's just going to take off, and whatever those words are, you're going to write right here, right here. And what I have discovered is not to overly think this. And so I'm going to write and I'm going to write, and then all of a sudden, with this word, whatever that word is, and I'm intentionally not, I want everybody to follow their own path with this, so I'm intentionally leaving this like I'm not doing my cluster. And then all of a sudden, this is going to take off in all these. All of a sudden, this is going to take off. And then all of a sudden, these are going to take off. And then all of a sudden, these are going to take off. And follow wherever it goes, even if it feels like that I'm never going to use this, or even if it feels like that doesn't make any sense. Trust that, because in my experience, often when I end up writing about what the juicy or the deep or the painful or the wonderful, it's like way over here. If I had not gone through this process, I know I never would have found it if I had remained in a linear. Then there'll come a moment where all of a sudden this feels full, but let yourself experience that a couple of times, because sometimes we don't want to listen to what wants to be written necessarily, or it's just like we're on the brink of kind of something else. So sit with this, and then all of a sudden there'll be a sense of, okay, I'm ready to start writing. And maybe, and there's an organic, as Gabrielle Ricos talks about, there's an organic organization. And I know that sounds really woo-woo, but it's true. I don't know any other way to describe it. And I cluster every single thing I write. I cluster chapters, I cluster books, I cluster letters of recommendation, I cluster chapters, I mean, just, articles. And then all of a sudden I'll look and I'll think, I know exactly. And maybe the order is going to be, I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go here. You'll know and trust that. And in that moment, start writing your narrative. So in that moment, it starts going out like this. Now, whether you do it in the computer or hand, whichever you want. And then you have, as Annie Lamott so wisely shares with us, a shitty first draft. And we'll talk about shitty first drafts a lot next week. But don't edit, you just want to go through this process, get these ideas down. And this is where we start. This is where, and then we start to edit and to refine and to go back and layer in. So anyways, so I just wanted to talk us through that. Please share questions, please share posts. I think I have to get off now, or else I'm gonna have to break this video into two. So here we go. Okay.